Good evening and welcome to the Franchise Tag podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. Welcome back, Andrew and Adam, for another Mock the Mock after I was lambasted last week for the dropping of Mike Green, for the quarterbacks going back-to-back 1-2. I mean, to be fair, you weren't that harsh on me. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised at how kind you both were. But are we going to be as kind to Adam? That's the real question.
Depends how stupid he's been.
Oh, he's been stupid. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, so Adam.
So we had a bit of a mine was a little bit all over the place, to be honest with you, in terms of whether I thought that was what they should do, what I like. It was a little bit, I sort of cherry picked off of everything for my mock because I'm not a college savant, whereas these two are. And these two know a lot more. So Adam is actually going to be transporting his brain into the brains of the GMs all around 32 NFL teams and doing what he thinks their GMs should be doing and their coaches and their teams should be doing with their pick. Not necessarily be what he would do. It might not necessarily what they will do. It's what he thinks they should do with their picks. So we are changing it up time. We're going to not use PFF. It's a very, very good platform. We're going to trial out using is this the NFL.com one, Andrew?
No, it's NFL Mock Draft Database.com.
Okay. So shout out to them guys if you want to collab or anything like that. Same with PFF, I suppose, if you ever want to collab or sponsor us or send us to San Francisco for the Super Bowl. You know where we are. So let's get that up on there. Andrew is using the computer and going to be like clicking the picks. I'm doing the hosting, and Adam's doing the difficult bit of picking the players. So yeah, without further ado, pick one, Tennessee Titans. Where are we going with this?
Well, I don't feel like we need to stick around too long on this one. I have reluctantly gone with the obvious and gone for Cam Ward as the quarterback, given the fact that Will Levis isn't very good. So I think that it's the way forward for him.
Yeah.
Any complaints so far?
No, I heard earlier today, apparently, according to form, they've been all in on Cam Ward for over a month now. So, all that speculation that it could have been Abdul Carter that was going there and all this, but apparently they've been solidified and they're definite on that for well over a month. So
I read a report yesterday that he's got a few character concerns though, so he might drop.
You never know. It's entirely plausible. You never know.
I'm obsessed with the character concerns. I like a leader in my team. I like a leader. I don't like a problem child. That's what I like. Number 2, the Cleveland Browns on the clock.
So for me, I was looking at this and I have been saying personally myself that it should be Abdul Carter for ages. However, when you look at the roster, they are bad in many, many areas. So I do feel like the most logical thing for them to do, and actually I kind of have a bit of a plan for them in the long run, but I think Travis Hunter makes most sense for them to go for that. So I think if I was their GM, I'd be going Travis Hunter. It's corner is a big need for them, and I think that he would improve them immensely there. I think wide receiver is a big need for them, so he would be able to play there as well. So yeah, I think that it's an improvement in 2 positions for a team that has many holes, and he is one of the blue chip players, isn't he?
Yeah. One of 2. Do you foresee him playing more as a wide receiver if he goes to Cleveland? Obviously, they do have 2 decent cornerbacks. So do you think he'll be used in packages in cornerback and then predominantly a wide receiver, or how do you see them using him?
I think they'll probably use him in both. I think they're kind of desperate, aren't they? And they need that. And I think that you'll probably see him in both. I think that wide receiver is a slightly more desperate need than corner, but I would argue that both are pretty dire for them, and that they just need to get better just anywhere that they can. And so I think that Travis Hunter makes a bit more sense than Abdul Carter, who I would like to see Abdul Carter there personally, but I just feel like it makes more sense for Hunter.
So does this mean we go on to pick 3 for the New York Giants and you get to fulfill what Andrew would like to happen?
Yeah, I get to annoy him now. So he's loving this theory because this is all going to go wrong for him. I'm going to go for his favourite position of O-line. And the reason that I'm going for O-line before I get told off is your O-line's not great. You think it's great, but it's not great. Now, you've got a very, very good left tackle. You just calm down there. You've got a very good left tackle. I will grant you that. When you actually look at the rest of your O-line, it's not brilliant. Now, I think your right tackle in Illuminor is decent, but he's got 1 year left. I think Van Rotten is not particularly great, and he's got 1 year left.
Well, he's going to get moved in. They're moving Evan Neal into right guard this season. It's been confirmed. So
great. So someone who's really bad is going to play at
no,
right
he's not
guard.
really bad,
That's,
is he? You know,
that's
he's
really
a top
promising.
prospect.
Adam say his piece, Andrew, and then you can retort.
On the whole, I just feel like your O-line could do with being strengthened. You've gone in and you've brought in 2 quarterbacks who need a decent O-line as well. And I think that we've got somebody here in Will Campbell who has the potential to be able to play anywhere across the O-line. He has that about him. He's a future captain on whatever team he plays on. And I think that because of that, and also because of your defense being in a reasonably solid position, I think the O-line is more important and is going to be used. I feel as a GM, it makes more sense to go for O-line than it would do to go for Carter. And personally, I think it's between the two.
Yeah, I don't. If you will think back to the start of last season, when our full O-line was healthy, Daniel Jones was getting loads of time in the pocket. Even you said, yeah, they're fantastic at protecting the passing game. It's just the run
couldn't
game.
Stop the run though, could you?
They couldn't. The run wasn't.
Couldn't run the ball.
But I feel like, you know, like I say, if you've already got a super strong left tackle and that's not an area that you need, I think you pick the other pieces up later in the draft. I don't think at 3, and if you stay at 3, you go blue chip. And I don't think these tackles potentially blue chip players. I think they're very, very strong and they're going to be very, very good and they're going to be solid in the NFL. But, you know, I know it's a no trade down in this, but you'll get one of them later on in the draft. So there's no point in ever picking them here. That's my concern, that be wasting pick 3 with that. I think if you remember rightly, if you go back to before the end of the season when the Giants were like pick 5 or 6 or something like that, I had them taking Will Campbell, didn't I? Which Freddie was like, "Why are you doing having him? It's Kelvin Banks that's the better one of the two." And I had us taking a quarterback in round 2. That was my thought process. It was Will Campbell and then either Jackson Dart or Garrett Nussmeier at the time. So I understand the theory behind it because I was on board with that. I just think at pick 3, if there's blue chip players, you take them over O-line any day because you can get guards in the 2nd round, 3rd round that could equally be as strong later down the line when we've got a left tackle. That's my thought process.
I don't think you can get anyone with the versatility that you will get with Will Campbell further down. I completely agree with the idea.
Play tackle and guard.
I'm talking across the whole line.
We don't need a
Will Campbell can play centre and would be a great centre.
You don't know he can play centre because he's always played
He
tackle.
would be a great centre.
He's always played tackle, so
I'm pretty confident he would be a great centre. He can play all across the line. He's going to be really, really good. You're not going to get someone of the same quality. And also, I get what you mean. I'm not against the idea of trading back. I think that's a really good idea for the Giants now because the idea of taking a quarterback, I think, is just there's no need to do it now that you've got yourself 2 guys. I think you can do that, trade back and get yourself an O-line guy a little bit later on. I don't see that as a bad idea. But given that that's not available to me, I think that the position is actually where, if I was the GM, that's where I'd go.
So just another one before we move on. Sorry, Fred.
Just taken over, Fred, isn't he? Honestly,
bloody Giants fan. There's lots of talk that obviously they're not 100% sold on Kayvon Thibodeau. You know, he struggled in his rookie year, but then he's had 2 nice years afterwards. You know, been decent, like 9 sacks last year, I think it was. You know, so there is production there from him. There's talks that if they take Abdul Carter here, they could trade Kayvon Thibodeau and then move back into the 1st and get a quarterback, maybe a Jackson Dart at the back of the 1st. As a GM, would you prefer to have Dart and Carter over Will Campbell and nothing else, or what package would you prefer?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be against it, although you don't need to trade back for Dart, not in my one anyway. So that wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you can do that, then that's great. I mean, but again, now we're trading and I don't have that option because I'm just doing this.
It's saying I'm going to stay and take Abdul Carter, and then I think they should trade Kayvon Thibodeau and use that for draft capital, which they desperately need. So you're sticking and picking.
I think it's doable. Like I said, I've got the idea behind that I think is fair, and doing that, and obviously bringing in, like you say, you'd be able to bring in draft capital for Thibodeau. So I don't see that as a problem if you wanted to go down that route. I just feel like it's difficult because if you're gonna do that, then you need to make sure that you've got that trade partner straight away in order to be able to come back into the first round straight away. And that just feels like I suppose if you've got feelers out already saying that we're talking about getting rid of him, then I suppose it's doable. But
I would also add to this that Kayvon Thibodeau in the draft was seen as a blue chip player and a player that was going to be incredible in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I don't, you go up and get Abdul Carter and then you do that. Okay, the quarterback might work out, but you might be back in square one again in 2 seasons' time. You might be in the exact same position that you're in. That'd be my only worry with that, I suppose. Let's move on to pick 4, the New England Patriots. I feel like they're going to probably take Abdul Carter here, right?
Yeah, that's about what we're going to do. They've got loads of holes on their team. I think Abdul Carter, a great player. So, yeah, makes complete sense for him to go there.
I've not seen Abdul Carter locked in at this position yet on anybody's mock draft. I know they went ham on defense in free agency. They brought in Milton Williams. They brought in Harold Landry. They brought in Spillane. Obviously, Spillane's a linebacker, but I would have thought Harold Landry and Milton Williams both played defensive end. Do you think that they need to, at some point, say, you know what, we need to help our rookie quarterback, second year quarterback out?
I don't think there's any wide receivers that you're going to want to do that with. I mean, you can go O-line, of course, but then you've brought in a couple of guys in like Morgan Moses and Garrett Bradbury, so they'd probably say that they've already done that a little bit. I get that obviously they've done quite a lot in the defense, but given the fact that you've got Mike Vrabel there, it kind of feels like that's what he's going to prioritize over the offense to a certain degree. And I think they probably will go O-line at some stage. That does make sense, obviously. I just don't think that I would be going for an O-line guy now when you've got Abdul Carter there.
Let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars pick at 5. Where are you going to go with this one? I went Mason Graham.
Yeah, the Jags are a bit of they've got quite a few different things. There were a few guys that I quite like the look of. Obviously, Mason Graham is one that I do like the look of for them. I actually didn't think they were too bad on the D-line. They didn't look awful. I mean, they're not great, but they don't look dreadful. I did think about Ted McMillan and pairing him up with Brian Thomas. That would be a really exciting duo. But I've gone O-line again because I was looking at this O-line and I'm just not like... I just don't really feel like there's a great deal of depth there, and I don't really feel like they're fantastic either. So I've gone for Armand Membu, where I think he's easily the next sort of O-line guy. Walker Little's okay. Anton Harrison, I don't really feel like has been fantastic. He's been all right, but nothing really special.
They got rid of Cam Robinson, didn't they?
Yeah, obviously Cam Robinson's not there anymore. And, with Membu, I think you can kick him into guard as well if you wanted to, or you could play him at tackle. I think he's got the ability to play in both areas. So, yeah, I think that Membu would be a really good pick for them. I can understand why people would say D-line, so I'm not going to say that the Mason Graham one's a bad pick, but I just feel like I feel like the O-line needs help. I feel like the run game, they really struggled in that run game, and that will help with the better O-line.
Yeah, I suppose what I like about this pick especially is me and you both know this, Adam, that the defensive tackle is quite deep in this draft. And they're going to be at the top of the second. So as you said, I think, in terms of that D line, it has got Trayvon Walker and it has got Josh Hines Allen on it. They did bring in Mason Smith from LSU, who's a big prospect last year. So it's okay, but it could do with another help. It could do with another person in there, which they could address later on. Whereas you can't do that with tackle, I don't think. I think if you desperately need tackle, and I'm with you, I'm not fully sold on Walker Little being the next big left tackle for them. So I think that this is a sensible move for them. You need to make sure that Trevor Lawrence, now he's got that contract, lives up to expectation. And this is going to help him and the run game. I get this. I get this pick. I'm on board.
Okay,
are you all right? Are you feeling okay?
Well, there's still time. Not loads of time, admittedly. We are only 5 picks in and 16 minutes in. So on to the Las Vegas Raiders pick at 6.
Yeah. So the Raiders, obviously, highly. There's a lot of talk of Ashton Genty being the guy to go for here. I haven't gone for him at the Raiders. If I was there, I wouldn't be doing that. I feel that you can sort that problem out much further down the line when it comes to running back, because the class is so deep. But there is one more guy that I think is a real, I would argue, is a blue chip player. I think he really does have the potential to be incredibly good. And although they are a very decent sort of D-line already, I think Mason Graham going next to Christian Wilkins with Max Crosby on edge as well. And I think that's going to be a very, very strong defense that that Pete Carroll will enjoy and he will want there. And I think that would be a really smart move for them.
I think when you look at Pete Carroll and his history with what he wants to do with the team, this is a really smart pick. Like you said, probably one of the blue chip guys in this draft from a really prestigious college. Has had defensive minded coaches and been good with that. And Carroll's is a similar mindset to the coaches that he's had at Michigan. And pairing him next to Christian Wilkins, who's someone who's a very, very tenured guy in this league now. He could learn a lot. You got Max Crosby, who's not going anywhere after signing that huge deal this year. I do worry, but Ashton Genty's there. It is a deep running back class, yes, but Carroll loves to run the ball. They're not the best wide receiving core in the league, but they've been proven to be competent with poor quarterbacks. Jacoby Myers hasn't been bad for them at all. And it's more about what's more profitable with your pick, isn't it? And I think in this position, someone like Mason Graham, that's going to be a profit that is definitely going to reap a lot of rewards for you there. Let's go to the Jets pick.
Before you move to it, one of the mocks that we did at the start of the process had Mason Graham going to the Raiders, and Adam hated the pick.
Yeah.
Why the change of heart?
The reason for the change of heart is I was looking at their depth chart, and I just feel that when you look at what's available in this draft, I know D-line is very strong, but to me, if you've got Mason Graham there, I think that it makes sense. And the running back class, you can argue that you can go back and you can get that further. I think that the offense is going to be run first, and so therefore wide receiver isn't as important. I think their O-line is actually in a reasonably okay state. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's in an okay state.
How do you feel about their cornerbacks?
I don't want to hear about their cornerbacks. Let's move on. We're 20 minutes in, and we are going to be forever with you.
Because you're talking about Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll, often he always had good DBs, didn't he?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think I would take a corner at 6.
I'd definitely take Will Johnson at 6.
Well, I look forward to it next week when you do yours then.
Well, I'll probably have Ashton Genty. Come on then, Jets.
Yes.
The Jets, I've gone for Ted McMillan. I think that having Garrett Wilson is all they've got, a wide receiver. There isn't anything else that exciting, and I think that Ted McMillan it's different. I think he's a different wide receiver, and he would be a really good piece for Justin Fields to have.
I thought Fred was going to pipe up then. I thought, he's had enough of me already. He's already ushering me on.
No, it's not I've had enough of you. It's just that you both love this so much and you both have no filter to be able to go, right, this is enough. It says so many layers. I love it when we talk because we have so many layers and so many questions go on to the next question. But there is 32 teams to pick and we have to bear that in mind. Take a minute. My problem is with wide receiver going for the Jets here is I just think that part of New York's identity at the minute, it's a little bit like Dallas as well, is Garrett Wilson's our guy. Garrett Wilson's our guy and Breece Hall. And in Dallas, it's like CeeDee Lamb. Our offense runs through CeeDee Lamb. And I don't think it's correct that teams do that, but they also almost enjoy having their identity that way. And also, I think the wide receivers within that team love it as well, but they are the team, so to speak, in a way. I think Fields needs more help. That's certainly. I think that Aaron Glenn comes into a defense that's got some really, really good players on there. And, they tried to make it work with Aaron and bringing in his pieces. Maybe this is the right way to go, is for Aaron to bring in his pieces and Aaron Glenn and the GM to bring in the pieces that they think is going to work on this offense. And to really give Justin Fields the biggest boost to be able to succeed within this team, because it's just not gone well for them on this offense at all, has it, for a long time now.
Yeah, I had offense. I had wide receiver here when we did it on our first mock draft that me and Adam did, and it was my pick. And I felt like outside of Garrett Wilson, there's nothing. So it's not as if it's Garrett Wilson's the superstar and you've got some nice pieces with him. Last year it was Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. Well, Alan Lazard's still on the depth chart, isn't he? But is he going to be there, or is he going to be a Steeler very, very soon? Who knows? But I think outside of that, there's nothing. So he's such a different type and style and wide receiver to Garrett Wilson. It would complement him well. I think you do, if you want to compete in that division, you need more than just Garrett Wilson. So I don't mind this pick at all.
Let's move on to Carolina now. We're still, and the biggest eyebrow raiser so far is Shedeur Sanders, trickling out of the top 5.
Well, Adam hates him. Adam thinks he's awful. So he's not going to, is he going to be in the first round?
Shedeur Sanders? Who's he? Number 8 for the Panthers, not Shedeur Sanders. I looked at them. I think wide receiver, they look okay. Running back, they look okay. The O-line looks all right. It could do a bit of improvement. But for me, I think one thing that they could really do with is someone opposite Derek Brown. Not Derek Brown, he's a defensive end. What am I talking about? But someone at edge. I think that's what they really need. And I know a lot of people have gone Jalen Walker, haven't they, at this pick? And I'm not sold on the whole linebacker edge guy sort of hybrid. And I think that this team could do with a good, young, solid edge rusher. So I've gone for my edge rusher number 2, which is James Pierce Jr. He will not go this high in real life, but I'm a GM, so I don't care.
Never really replaced Brian Burns, have they?
No.
He is one of the teams. That is one of the teams, the Panthers, that I've heard might be interested in Thibodeau if he is available. So, that'd be odd. Give us Burns and then take Thibodeau a year later.
Why has he been slipping down the board, Andrew? Because I've seen several mocks where he's in that, late teens, 20s range.
So character concerns have been the big thing that has kind of moved him down. And I think after the combine, obviously he's a bit, if you like, a little bit smaller maybe than some of the athletic freaks that have just got pure traits. But production, tape production, speed is all there. So I think it'd only take one team to fall in love with him to go, we're not bothered about the character concerns, we're going to take him. So Adam says he's not going to go there. it only takes for one team to fall in love with him and say, yes, we're taking him for you guys. And he'll go there because the talent and the production is there.
Let's go on to the New Orleans Saints pick in division. With the Carolina Panthers, they might be a bit miffed that James Pierce has just gone there. They may have been eyeing him up themselves. What are they going here, Adam?
Yeah, I think edge is a definite one that you could look at, although they did bring back quite a few guys there, so it's not necessarily one that they desperately need to go for, but it's a position they could go for. I actually think that there's a ton of positions here that you could go for and that you could come out and probably have a slightly better player, but for me, I've gone for Will Johnson. I think corner is a big need for them. Actually, I was having a look at their depth chart, and you've got Kool-Aid McKinstry, you've got Isaac Yeldon there as their two main corners, and I would argue that Will Johnson is better than both of them already, and he hasn't even started. So I would be going for him.
Yeah, I think people are starting to forget about him because he had the injury last year. And I think people forget what he did in 2023. I think he allowed no touchdowns whatsoever. He was absolute lockdown corner. And I think because of that injury, people are going like, Will Johnson? I don't remember. But for me, he's as close to blue chip as you can get without being it. So that's why I'm quite high on him going higher than this. But yeah, I think that's a great pick for them. Great value.
Do you think he's got a little bit of a similar trajectory to Derek Stingley when he was at LSU, because he missed the whole of his last year, didn't he? And he turned up at Texans, picked him at what, 3 was it in the end?
Yeah, he was the first one.
Were a bit like,
everyone was saying it was going to be Sauce Gardner, weren't they? But I was, and it was Stingley that went first. I think I won a bit of money on that because I actually thought he was the better one. So yeah, and then it turns out that you get down the line to now, and he is the better one. Out of everyone who was in that class, he's one of the best in the league.
Huge contract extension recently as well, hasn't he? Right, let's move on to the Chicago Bears on the clock.
Yeah, it pains me to pick for the Bears, obviously, as a Packers fan. But I was actually looking at their depth chart, and they've obviously done some serious repairs, haven't they, on the O-line? That was a big problem for them. But they've brought in a lot, and I think that they will probably go O-line again. I just don't think that they'll do it with their first round pick here. So when you sort of look at it, you look at that defense and it's got some really good guys on it, and they've brought in a couple of decent free agents. And in the end, I kind of went, well, the only real thing that I would say could be improved a lot more, and is a guy who should be going in around this point, is Ashton Jeanty. And I just felt like him at running back was the way forward for them, because I know they've got Roshan Johnson and DeAndre Swift there, but I wouldn't say that either of them are elite. And I think that Ashton Jeanty could potentially be.
Yeah, this gets them back to what he was running at Detroit, really, isn't it? Gives him that running back style that he had, and I think Swift will complement him really, really well. And then you can bring Roshan in for just pounding it down the middle and maybe taking a few of those blows so the guys aren't getting injured. So I think a lot of people, if your board's like it is, and we've seen a few like this, and Shador maybe goes to the Raiders, then the Bears is the next team everybody's locked in on Ashton Jeanty going. So makes perfect sense, really, if he's still here and available.
Yeah, I love this pick. To be fair, I love it. I think it's sort of, I almost want him to go to the Bears over the Raiders. You know what I mean? In that sort of like, who would I rather see him at? Which franchise would I rather see him at? I'd rather see him in Chicago than I would in Las Vegas, to be honest with you. Onto the San Francisco 49ers, going into out the top 10 now.
Yeah, so for the 49ers, I think it is as simple as O-line, D-line. For them, I think that's where they need to bulk up their squad. And for me, there's going to be more D-line further back. So I think O-line makes a lot of sense here. Calvin Banks Jr. is my next O-line guy. And I just think that's where they need to go. And that's what they need to be looking at.
If I remember rightly, I think I did the same pick, didn't I, for this pick?
I think so.
I think we did. Yeah, I mean, the 49ers, everyone's been talking about it, haven't they? That they've they've lost so many guys. They need to work it out. They need to work out what's going on with their franchise and with their team. They want to stay relevant within the Super Bowl, but they've lost a lot of players and they've got a lot of people on big contracts and a lot of them aging as well. And at the end of the day, we've seen it around the league, and it's exactly what won the Super Bowl. And us three agree on this: is that it's about how good your trenches are, and if your trenches are good, and it's sort of like, if in doubt, just pick a really good guy on the line. It's sort of like what the Eagles have done for a long time: is just pick a really good guy on the line, and you'll be okay. You can figure out all the rest of it around the team, I think.
Yeah, this is the pick that we also made in our 101 as well. Exact same player as well, which we said Trent Williams is 36 years old now. He's not going to keep carrying on, and you're about to give Purdy a massive contract, and you rely heavily on the run game to be a big factor in your team. So they need to invest and get younger on that O-line. So, fine with this. I know they lost a lot of people on defense, and there's defensive players available, but they can go hard on defense after this, can't they?
Right, on to the Dallas Cowboys. They'll be. I mean, are they like a flashy pick, Adam? Are you thinking like Mr. James?
No,
You're channeling your inner Jerry.
Could you imagine channeling your inner Jerry? Jesus. No, I have not gone for a flashy pick for them. I was obviously thinking running back, but they brought in Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. I mean, I don't think it's great. I think they will still need to go for one. I just feel like if Genty was there, maybe, but now that he's gone, I don't think they go there. Wide receiver is an argument, but I think they need speed. The problem with wide receiver is I feel like Burden and Igbuka are going to be too close to what Lamb is. I feel like they need speed. I can't draft Matthew Golden this early up. It goes against everything I stand for. So I went O-line because I said that years ago, and I know Andrew loves an O-line guy. So I'm going for O-line, and calm yourself. There's a reason that we're going for O-line. I'm not sold on Tyler Guyton at all. I don't think he's good enough. Not sold on him. Zach Martin has retired, and Tyler Smith has been. I think he's been all right, but Brock Hoffman. I've got an O-line. I've got this one. I will admit, it is a reach for him. I don't think he should be this high up, but because he's the next O-line guy, that's why I've picked him. For me, Josh Connolly.
I mean, it is a high pick. I've not seen anywhere where he goes this sort of far up and high up.
No.
It's interesting because we do see it in drafts, don't we, Andrew? We see it in drafts where you go, I feel like he's more of a second round player or a late round.
Yeah, I haven't got a first round. I haven't got a first round grade on him. I've got he'll get into the first round because maybe the Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs will be interested in that position, and he'll be available there. I very nearly clicked the wrong player when Adam said that, because he said Josh. I was Josh Simmons, because Josh Simmons for me is.
I went for a guy who's not injured.
Well, that's crazy because you've not gone for the guy that could, if he hadn't.
I'm channeling my inner Jerry. You can't just.
You'd be talking about a guy that would be a lot higher than this, maybe. So I'm very. You love Josh Connolly for some reason, yet. You saw him get battered by your guy Mike Green in the Senior Bowl.
How rude to come out and say it. That's how amazing Mike Green is. Is
that why you like him so much? Because
exactly. You see.
But I think you've got this one wrong, Adam. I don't think he's going to go that high. I don't think he'll go over Simmons as well.
Can I ask, what position would you go for?
I don't mind that pick as a position.
Well, that's fine then.
Yeah, like I say, I'm with you with Tyler Guyton. I think he really, really struggled. I think you could argue that you could move Smith back to left tackle, or move one of them to right tackle and bring in an actual tackle. But I think they'll be fine for a year if you are waiting for Simmons to come back, and you're good for the future. Outside of that, I don't know. They're probably. Value-wise,
It's all
I
right.
think
You've answered the question. We're all good.
maybe
I got the right.
maybe
I got the right position. That's all we
maybe
needed to
wide
know.
receiver or running back might be a bit more where they need to go, because the fans are literally like screaming for something better than what they've had the last couple of years. So
I'm a
I think
GM. I
yeah,
don't
but
care about fans.
if
What's
you're the
wrong
GM
with
of the
you?
Cowboys and the Cowboys have been this bad for so long, I think you've got to listen to the fans. Otherwise, they're going to get on your back big time.
So naive, honestly.
Emperor Palpatine at the Lone Star State, just plotting all the time. Into warmer waters, we go to Miami and their pick here, Adam.
Yeah, I think this is a fairly obvious one, personally. Javon Holland's gone. Malachi Starks.
I mean, everyone's been saying that he's one of the guys who could be in the top 5 best players within this draft. I mean, coming from such a prestigious school. Javon Holland, I'm such a huge fan of Javon Holland. I have been since he got drafted there. He's been really, really great for them. And what I think maybe some teams look at and maybe fear a little bit is when you look at someone like Cincinnati that lost Jesse Bates, and suddenly it felt like they couldn't defend. It's almost like, the captain on that side of the ball is so important. And Malachi Starks has shown that he's a real credible threat on that defense, or on a defense, especially for Georgia. It's a team that I think has got a few needs and can look in a lot of directions of where they want to go here. And really, they're a team that are sort of we should be pushing for the playoffs now at this point, and we're still not really getting there and getting us, what some deem as a blue chip player in Malachi Starks. I'm not saying I think that, or I'm not saying you think that. I think some people think that he's a very, very, very good player. I know Nick. I'm going to butcher the surname now. And Anuori.
It's on the screen. You're all good.
And Manawari. The problem is the screen's very small, so I'm like looking like, is that what it says? Manawari is also a really good. And I mean, some people have him going over Malachi Starks in some mocks. I mean, I don't know my ball well enough, college ball well enough to know why that would be. It's an interesting theory.
It's our 101 again. I've been falling in love with Malachi Starks going there since day one. Love the pick. I think the Miami Dolphins are in a very, very bad situation. I think there's a lot of holes all over the board, and we say this is a lock that they should go there, but protecting Tua, getting some edge rushers, everywhere is a bit of an issue. If Tyreek Hill gets traded, which there's lots of rumors of, I can see this team. Fred mentioned, them being playoff bound. I think they could go backwards this year. I think they could be further away from the playoffs.
It could definitely be. It's one of them, but it's a dicey situation in Miami in a minute. I mean, injuries haven't helped at all for them either. To Indianapolis, colder waters now with Indianapolis and the Colts pick.
Yeah, another really easy one for me to come up with. Tyler Warren at tight end.
The screen may be small, but I saw Andrew's mouse go so quickly to tight end, and that was also my pick as well. And I think it's a majority of people's picks is pretty locked in for Tyler Warren here at the Colts. It makes sense. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
If people don't understand it, you need to just go and understand it. This guy's already.
If he's gone as well, I'd probably say Colston Loveland. So
yeah. The Colts need something to help out with their quarterback there. On to the Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons at 15. I think that we've been saying for ages that they need a pass rusher. Mike Green's my number 3 pass rusher. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. And, there are other potential areas that you could go for, but I just feel like that's a real issue that they've had for a couple of seasons now. So it needs sorting out.
And
we all agree with the position, surely. No?
You're going to let your prized Mike Green go to Atlanta.
Yes, because I am the Falcons GM during this minute and a half that we talk about this.
So we're all happy with the position. You take your Adam hat off, you put your Falcons GM hat on, and you don't go for one of the Georgia Bulldogs.
No. It's about the best one. We're going.
I went Michael Williams. I said keep him in state.
Well, there's two of them. There's 2 of them still on the board.
It's what I would do, not what they would do. I would do Mike Green here. Okay, that's where he should go. Not Mike Howard. Don't get me wrong. I will put more than happy to put a caveat on this. My edge rushers the ones that go later will go earlier, and the ones that I've put earlier will go later. So,
right, let's get to Arizona now.
Arizona was a bit of a difficult one, I thought. I was really tempted to look at edge rusher from, and then they went and blimming got Calais Campbell in, didn't they? And like that was, I'm not saying he's going to be amazing, but obviously it does kind of put you off there a little bit. So in the end, I feel like you could go wide receiver, but I don't really. I'm not really that bothered about it. And I kind of I was looking at who's left, and I just think there's one really, really good corner left. So I've gone for Jade Barron at corner. And I know they've got Sean Murphy Bunting and Max Melton, but I feel like we have seen, especially with the way that the Eagles, won the Super Bowl, you need more than 2 corners. And I'm just not really that convinced with the rest of them. So I think that Jade Barron is someone who could be very, very good in the NFL. So I liked him here.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals is one of the hardest ones to predict in this whole draft. Because you look across everywhere, outside of like Marvin Harrison, who's like elite, and obviously they're not going to pick quarterback. They've got Kyler
They
Murray.
could improve in a lot of areas.
Yeah, I mean, I know they've got Josh Sweat, players like that. You look at every player and go, I think there's better out there. There could be better out there. Like you sort of, I don't think the entire squad, I suppose, is that convincing in any given area. And I think it's a good picture. Dave Barron, touted as a really, really top cornerback, was fantastic for the Texas Longhorns. I was about to say the Texans and the Texas Longhorns. Like he's a top player. He's worthy of a first round pick. And it's a position of need for Arizona. But like I said, I think there's just so many positions of need here. And you could loads of people could argue me about lots of people for this position or what position they would go for, and I'd probably go, I could buy that argument. So it's an interesting one for a team that's not that interesting, unfortunately. Cincinnati Bengals, what are they saying there? It's got to be defense, right?
No. So now there's a reason it's not defense. I think that there's the strength in depth here. You can go D-line, you can do it later. It's not an issue for them. So I think that's why it's not defense there. I know you could go further back, but you've just lost Barron, and I'm a little bit like, do I really want a corner from someone? Another corner, I feel like you're really sort of like going up, taking one higher than what they should be. And for me, at the end of the day, there is only actually one main thing here for the Bengals, and that is to protect Joe Burrow, because if he goes, then they're done. So I've gone for an O-line guy. We'll have another O-line guy because I love my O-lineman. I've gone for Josh Simmons on this one, and I actually think that O-line is not dreadful, which is partly why I've gone for Simmons, because I feel like he would have the time to get fully fit here and then be able to slot in there.
Happy, Andrew? I mean, you're a high state guy.
And the silence was deafening.
Well, they went O-line last year, didn't they? They brought in Amaris Mims. They've already got a very talented left tackle in Orlando Brown. And their defense is just one person, isn't it? It's one player. So
it's one player who wants to be traded.
Yeah, well, he wants a deal, doesn't he? Which can't be done because they've spent it all on offense. So I feel like they've got to go defense all day long for as long as possible on this. And maybe, as I said, they've got 2 decent tackles. Maybe you can pick interior. There's a lot of good guards that will be available round 2 and round 3. So I think they don't necessarily need tackle. So I think it's got to be defense where they get the most value from it.
Back to the NFC and going to the Seattle Seahawks. What pick's this now? It's what?
18.
18. I know Pittsburgh's 21. So.
Their O-line is awful. So we're going for Gray Zabel. He's the next guy, basically, and their O-line's dreadful. And he could play guard, he could play tackle. I don't mind. They just need to improve their O-line.
I'm guessing he's listed as interior. Yes, he is.
Yes, I would have thought so.
So you take Gray Zabel over Tyler Booker?
For this one, yeah, because I think in most places he's not listed as interior. I would say most places would have him as tackle or guard, and I think he can play in both, although he wouldn't play where Charles Cross is, but I think that he would. I think he could play in the other places. I feel like Booker is very good, but he only has the ability to play in one place.
Yeah, that's where I put him. I put him at left guard. I'm just thinking, they got Abraham Lucas, who I thought was really, really good at right tackle. And then obviously Charles Cross has been fine at left tackle. It's the interior for me that they'll struggle, because it's O-line, D-line for me on this pick, either or. So if you are going, I think Tyler Booker would be the better option for them. But, I'm not picking.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers sticking in the NFC are on the clock now at 19.
Yeah, so the Bucks is a team that I have consistently gone edge with. And I was having a look at it, and I don't know whether that is necessarily the right move for them, especially now that they've brought in Hassan Riddick as well. So I felt to me that maybe the way forward for them would be linebacker. I feel like they've never really replaced Devin White, and that's something that they need to do. Jihad Campbell is there, so I really like the look of him. Obviously, Malachi Starks, I know it's safety rather than linebacker, but he's not there. They could go for Jalen Walker if they wanted to. I could understand that as well, but for me, Campbell, I'd rather have an out-and-out linebacker for him.
It's exactly what I said last week, isn't it? Pretty much, was this pick and the exact same thing. I think there's probably not an edge up here who's you're like that sold on, I suppose. But then there's two linebackers who are really, really fantastic, and a lot of people are really, really liking them. So I think it's a good pick. I like that pick. I completely agree, because that's what I did last week.
Yeah, I think when we did our 101, I wanted to pick linebacker at this, but I didn't know whether it was too early to go linebacker for them. So I think we ended up going edge. But then, like you said, we've got Hassan Riddick. They've got Yaya Diaby. So I think they're okay, Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey. So that seems okay. But outside of that, Levante David's getting old now. What is he? He's mid-30s now, isn't he? So they've got to address that linebacker position. And Jihad Campbell, for me, is the better linebacker if you want someone to play linebacker and can play edge, because he used to play edge at Bama before Will Anderson decided he was the edge, and Campbell moved back. So absolutely great pick. I like that someone's thinking about this sensibly, Adam. It's a good pick.
How dare you accuse me of being sensible?
Right, you might not be sensible with the Denver Broncos pick next. You never know.
For me, move back to tight end, maybe. I don't know.
So for me, I did like the look of tight end for him, but they've just signed Evan Ingram. So I think there's one more important position. I think there's one more first round running back. And so for me, Amarian Hampton is the spot for them at the Broncos. I just feel like when you look at that running back room, it's not great. I thought Estime was okay, but I didn't think he was fantastic. And I think Hampton would be a big upgrade for him.
It'd be a massive upgrade for them, not just a big upgrade. I think Estime is more of that goal line back. I think that's where he sits. Whereas Hampton's an every down back. It could be a 3-down back for them. I think they'll want to get something going in that run game. I thought that's what let them down last year and where their struggles came from. So now they've addressed tight end, then makes sense. The defense is strong, isn't it?
On to my team, the Steelers. Very exciting.
Yeah, proper pain in the arse, you lot. I mean, really difficult. You think the Cardinals
Sanders looks pretty good here, to be fair.
Who?
Shador Sanders looks pretty good here, to be fair.
He does. So, look, I have gone very much on the fact that I believe you've got Aaron Rodgers. Okay. So I will throw out the fact you can go quarterback if you don't and all that sort of thing, but I've gone on the fact that you've got Aaron Rodgers. If you look at that, you then go, oh, God, okay, where do we go with you guys? And when you look at the board now, I know that O-line is something that a lot of people talk about with the Steelers. There isn't anyone left that I would say you would go for now. So I feel like the O-line guys have gone. So you sort of think, okay, they're not there. Your defense, but certainly your front seven, I think are very, very good. I'm going to go corner I just think you need more than what you've got. Joey Porter, I think, is good. I know you've brought in Slay, so obviously that's great. But again, I think you need more than that. So I've gone for Savon Ravel. I think that Ravel is a really good potential corner in the NFL. He's coming off the injury, which is why I think that he's slipped quite a bit in most people's drafts. But for me, I think that he's a good player in a position where you need more depth.
Just click that all tab for me, please, Andrew, just so I can see who is left on the board and see how much I've been absolutely screwed over here. Let's have a look. Yes.
You're very difficult.
Well, I think they're very difficult. You've just picked my spoiler alert. If we haven't released the cornerback prospect show, you picked cornerback 7 on my list for them. So, although
it's not my fault that you don't have good taste in corners, is it? I mean, what can I say?
Maxwell Hairston and Benjamin Morrison are a lot better.
Let's move swiftly on to.
Fred, who would you go before we move on? I know, like time-wise.
I mean, scroll down just a little bit for me. I mean, probably you could probably go Walton Nolan, maybe Derek Harmon, maybe who's the other Kenneth Grant you could go for.
I think if you're going to try and get value at this pick for your team, I mean, you've got to trade back. If you don't take quarterback,
you would trade back. You would trade back here. I think if that board falls like that, you trade. No, actually, I don't think that. I think you'd probably draft Shedeur Sanders.
I think the value of Travion Henderson is good here for the Steelers. I think he's not going to be available for the Steelers in the next round. And
if we drop down to 34 from first from 21, I think we can still get him, to be honest, and get capital back for it. And I don't know. I would probably look. You're right. I would trade down here at this spot, but I do think you sort of need a bit of an heir apparent for Cam Hayward. I don't think we've necessarily done that yet. And I really like Cam Hayward. He's still really, really good. But I just think I don't think Savon Ravel's a bad corner at all. And he's it's a small school corner, admittedly. But I just think I think he's a bit rich for my blood. This one. Let's move on to the Chargers.
Can I just quickly say it's very difficult when you don't have a second round pick?
Yeah.
So I feel like you almost have to reach.
So reach for a running back. They don't have one.
Yeah, but I think they could get one in the third round. I don't think you'll have any corners
It's not going to be the value of.
No, you're not going to get Henderson. But I think you can get a serviceable running back, which will.
They need more than serviceable. They've just lost Nagy, and they've now got just Jalen Warren, and that's it, haven't they?
Yeah, but do you not think their run game was okay?
Yeah, when they had Najee Harris, he was the 1,000-yarder, wasn't he? So
I think both of them running backs need to have someone to complement each other, and that's the issue. I think the other one's really good, but I think Najee's pretty good. I just think they both are quarterbacks, both are running backs in this league that need to have somebody to tandem with them. Unfortunately, let's go on to the Chargers pick. Who are they getting? Is this Colston Loveland? Oh my God, are we snapping here? Is this?
It's Ken Grant.
This is Colston Loveland.
Yeah,
I think they need a tight end, don't they? So
it makes too much sense.
Yeah,
let's go straight to Green Bay then to your pick. To your team.
Yeah, I've picked someone that I don't particularly like, so that bodes well for me. So for me, I feel like when you look at the players that are there,
they go to edge rusher.
I felt like edge rusher was the way forward. So when you look at who the next edge rusher was, it's Shamar Stewart, and that kind of makes the most sense. And also the other thing, I mean, this is kind of me being a bit sort of maybe not so much what I would do, but what the Packers would do a little bit. They're very hot on all the traits and all that sort of thing. So I think that you'll probably find that he's very high on their board. So yeah, Shamar Stewart.
You not want any cornerbacks really?
No, Giants back. We don't need him now.
Adam is in the mind of Gutekunst at the minute, and
Do you have any idea what that's like?
Most drafts is pretty miffed with his pick for the most
part. Yeah. Do you have any idea what that's like? The pain that I'm currently in.
Exactly. He's picking the player who caused him the most pain.
This is like being in a Black Mirror episode. This is just like insanity. All right, so leave me alone.
Onto your
The
rivals,
Vikings.
the Vikings. What are they doing?
Just to cheer me up, let's go for the Vikings. Really. I actually do think the Vikings are a very trade backable team. I have to say, and
Backable.
yeah. So I'm throwing out new words now. I'm in like all these GMs' minds or everything. I do think that there's a potential there, and I am going to say this: there is potential. I think for Shedeur Sanders here for a team to come up and take him.
I thought you were going to say
No,
that.
not for the Vikings. So I do think that could happen. However, because I'm not doing any trades, I think Kenneth Grant is the way forward for them. I think they're going to invest on that defense. There's not really a lot that needs doing on the offense, and there's no O-line guys left because I went mental on them earlier on. So I think it's very much defense. I like Kenneth Grant here, and I think it'd be pretty good.
Let's have a look at Houston Texans now. Then it's going back to the AFC, a team that I know I found it a bit difficult drafting with the Texans, to be honest.
Yeah, I found the Texans a little bit awkward. O-line again is another place where I feel like they could do with someone. I went wide receiver though. I know they brought in Christian Kirk. I think they could, and they've brought in Justin Watson actually. I think they could do with more. My head tells me they need speed because Tank Dell isn't there. I don't believe that Matthew Golden's speed is real. So we're not going for him. So I've gone Luther Burden. I know that I probably pissed off my quarterback because Egbuka's there, but I think Burden is able to play in the slot and out wide, whereas and I know Egbuka can as well, but I just feel like he's more slot focused than the other one. And you've just brought in Christian Kirk, and I know it's not a massive deal, but it kind of feels a little bit too similar.
You not worried about their O-line?
I've got no O-line guys left. As far as I'm concerned, there is no other O-line guy apart from possibly Donovan Jackson. That's the only. Sorry?
Tyler Booker's still there.
Yeah, but I've got him going somewhere else.
Oh. Okay. All right. Yeah.
No, I think wide receiver is where I'd go with it.
Yeah, it's sort of one of the positions over there where it was like so many injuries last year. Like, yeah, I mean, CJ Stroud's all about that throwing, isn't he? He's a fantastic guy, in the air with his arm. And Luke Burns a decent wide receiver that's going to come into a team that's, it's pretty good. They're pretty good going. I don't know. The roster doesn't always excite me when I look at it. And I just think there's improvements to be made all over the board for Houston. To the Rams, onto the LA Rams. What are they going to do?
Well, yeah, pretty much. It actually is another one that's a bit of a difficult one. I think corner is definitely somewhere they can look at, but I'm not sure whether. I was really stuck on this one. I feel like Jalen Walker to actually play linebacker rather than edge, I think makes a lot of sense for them here. But I do like Azariah Thomas as well. So I've kind of like opened it up to the floor a little bit on this one because I really don't know where you go.
I think if you're talking front seven, I feel like they did really well.
They're very good.
I know that Omar Speaks as well was good. He's going to be playing in linebacker. Byron Young can also play linebacker as well. And then that leaves sort of Fisk and Verse to play edge, and Kobe Turner and Puna Ford to play tackles. So that we've said for a long time their area of need probably cornerback, if anything. is a big need for them. But equally, you've got to remember they let a lot of guys go on that O-line as well. I know you're not strong on O-line and you didn't like the guys in there. So fair enough, they can get guards and things later on in the draft. So if you are looking for value for them, it'd probably be... Corner's not massively valuable at the minute
This is what I mean. This is where I was kind of a little bit stuck with it, because I don't feel like the value is there. I do feel like they're very strong.
I think they take Shedeur Sanders. I think they take Shedeur Sanders, find a replacement for...
Okay, we're not having Shedeur Sanders here, so I'm going to override that crap, and we're going to have Azariah Thomas go. I've made my decision, and that's the end of it. Corner.
The Baltimore Ravens now on the clock as we're coming towards the end of the draft.
I really like them for interior O-line here, and I like Tyler Booker here. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. So for me, I'm going for Tyler Booker.
It's an obvious pick, I think, at this point for them. Like that's a really obvious one. Like when you said that, who's it going to? He's going to go somewhere else. I sort of looked down the board and I was like, if I'm looking at it, probably maybe Washington, maybe KC, but yeah, Baltimore was also in that as well. So yeah, a really good pick there.
I personally think they'd probably get edge rusher. I think the value of edge still on the board for them would be bigger, and they've lost a few guys on that front seven over the last couple of years. So I think that...
Would you be eyeing up Michael Williams at this point?
Well, yeah, Michael Williams or Jalen Walker at this point for them. I think he'd probably suit them quite nicely. Obviously, I think what have they got big names wise for you guys on the edge that you're going like, yeah, that's solid front seven. That is, there's a few missing pieces there for me. Whereas, O-line, they've invested. They've got Ronnie Stanley, Andrew Voorhees, Tyler Linderboom, Rose Garten. I think that's set for me. They need a little bit of help, but I think edge they could do with a superstar.
I don't think there are any.
I think there's a little bit of question marks over.
I think they're a perfect team to take a traits guy and be able to turn him into an absolutely great defender. I think with the way their culture is and what they've got there, they wouldn't
have the pressure, would they? Either of being the guy. No. Because they've got so many good guys anyway, like they would be able to sort of sit and wait out a little bit.
They could learn. They're learning from the pros.
Yeah, exactly. To Detroit, I'm sure any player at the minute will be very happy to get drafted to Detroit.
Yeah, so I am going edge rusher here. I think we've been saying for a long time they need a second edge rusher. So for me, I don't think I know Michael Williams is still there, but I don't actually think he suits them very well when I think that Donovan Azarenko's there, who does tend to play with his hair on fire. So I think that's very much the sort of thing that the Lions would like. So for me, I think that's definitely something that they need to go for.
Well, with how they've been drafted in the last few years, you sort of go like, well, whoever they're going to draft is going to be a hit, because they seem to have hit on pretty much everybody. And I don't know that much about Donovan, so I don't want to sort of say too much and get it wrong. But you say he plays with the hair on fire. If he's a culture guy, that's what the Lions like to do at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, they'll just get their guy. So it doesn't matter which edge rushers that are available at this point. They will just take the guy that they think will fit their culture, won't they? So you're right to pick the one that you think would fit them better, rather than what consensus is better.
Sticking in the NFC, going to the Washington Commanders with their pick, which is the 29th pick.
Yeah, so when it comes to the Commanders, I think there are a few different spots you could go for. I actually think they're a sneaky running back team as well on this one. It wouldn't surprise me if they did go down that route. But I ended up going edge rusher, and I ended up going Michael Williams. I think that I don't think Cleveland Farrell is particularly amazing. Dietrich Wise, I know, is he's a new signing there, but he's getting a little bit older, and it's all a one-year deal and all that sort of thing. So I think having an edge rusher like Michael Williams there is a move that I think it's quite a smart move for them to to go for someone like that or someone in the trenches. That kind of position makes sense for me.
Yeah, they brought in Kinlaw, didn't they? I was just thinking that Harmon's still on there, Walter Nolan's still on there, guys that I think are really good value. But you got Michael Williams still there, so
Yeah,
he could be good value. So.
To the Buffalo Bills, will they be eyeing up one of these defensive interior guys?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a position that they need to look at to help improve them. Walter Nolan, for me, is the next D-line guy. So I think he's a great run defensive guy. And he can just sort of sit in there and stop everyone from coming past.
Good pick. Nice, solid pick, that.
Nearly finished with it all. 31, Kansas City Chiefs, where are they going to go? You haven't got any O-line left, you said. So,
you got any O-line people left? No.
No, so no, I'm not going to go O-line. I actually, again, another team that I think could trade back, but I am going to go D-line for them. I've pretty much done this because I think he's the best player left. So I've gone Derek Harmon, and I think that to have another guy there as a run stopper, I think will help them. And I mean, it's a pretty good D-line already, but I think it will help them in the long run.
I think you've got to sort of accept it in some of these positions, lay down the board maybe, or even at the start, I suppose. If no one wants to trade with you, if you can't get out of it, you are just, sometimes it is just your prerogative to just go best player available and just figure it out wrong. And I think a lot of these GMs do that. I mean, we see it happen every draft season, is that we sometimes don't get the pick and they just work it out later on. The better teams are successful at it. And then there's some teams that are really quite poor at it. You think, oh gosh, why'd they do that? I mean, there's definitely picks that come to the top of my head, but I think that really didn't stick. But that's just what happens, you know? That's just what you have to do in these positions.
If they were to stick and pick, I could see them being a sneaky running back team.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that. Why, you know what? That's another conversation for another day. The Philadelphia Eagles at 32.
Yeah, so final pick for this one. I think they've lacked a bit. They don't have the depth at edge rusher that they had before the free agency. So I think edge rusher is the position. To be honest, you could go.
And another Georgia Bulldog who's an edge rusher.
So you could. I'm not. I mean, Jalen Walker makes a ton of sense. However, because I'm an annoying person and I'm not going to let him have another Georgia Bulldog, I've picked the guy who I like the most when it comes to who's left. So I've gone Jack Sawyer. But I am happy to admit that Jalen Walker is probably the better choice.
I think Jalen Walker would be definitely the choice here. And for once in your the mind of Harry Roseman, and you're actually in the mind of Adam Martin for that pick. Would you agree, Andrew, on that? I think that's...
I mean, he's a solid play. You know, that anyone who gets him is going to work wonders with him. He's great. But they'll just stack Georgia Bulldogs if they're available, won't they?
Yeah.
It's just a given.
I think Sawyer's going to be a really good second round edge rusher for someone really good.
I think both the Ohio State guys are just really solid wherever they go.
Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Andrew, for doing this mock draft. The comment section will now be open for you to critique Adam's decision to let Shedeur Sanders not be a first round pick.
Hang on. I did come out and say that I could see a team drafting up for him. But he's not a first-round talent, so he doesn't deserve to be there. There you go. Sorted.
Not a first-round talent, therefore can't be a first-round pick.
The Browns, they could have Hunter and Sanders.
So whoever does that is going to be very smart if they do, aren't they?
I've just done it. I just said so.
I can see it. Not him dropping. I don't think that. I can see it happening that someone would go and get both. That would be something like a little bit like the Texans did the other year, where they went up and picked back to back. I know it plays on the same team, but they went and did that, and it would be. I mean, as well, not a neutral because it's the Browns and they're in my division. I would hate that, but if it was any sort of team that did that, it would be very exciting because that's what all the fun is of the draft night. I suppose.
I think they could get Shiloh a little bit later on in the draft.
Wow. Andrew, Adam, thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching and for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe us on YouTube and check out all of our social media. Make sure you follow us. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you soon and have a good rest of your week.